Hey guys, welcome back to the BMW Blog YouTube channel, and once again, welcome to Germany. I am back here and today I am testing a brand new BMW. This is the BMW iX M60. It's the top model in the new iX family. You might have seen so far the 40 model, the 50, and now of course we have the M60. So being an M60 badge, it also means that it has been tuned by the M division. But before we talk about some of the mechanical and software updates to the car, let's talk about the exterior design. As you can see right here, the car comes standard with the M Sport package. And as you'd expect from an M Sport package, it's a lot more aggressive than the standard one. You have some really big air openings, some functional vents right there. And of course, it comes with a dual tone to give that car a lot more aggressive look. Now, if you look around the car, you're going to be noticing this Titan bronze line. That's what BMW calls it. So basically, the idea is to pair any color with this bronze line that runs across the design. Of course, you will also notice the bronze and black M badges to denote that this is an M product, or at least an M-tuned product. But naturally, the car, it's a lot more than just the exterior design. It also comes with M-specific brakes. It comes with a tune-up of the suspension of the steering specific to M cars. It's a lot more aggressive on the road, and we'll have a chance to jump behind the wheel and actually test that. Now let's talk about the performance. So this is the most powerful BMW electric car today, that at least until the i7 M70 arrives sometimes next year. The car makes 619 horsepower, 455 kilowatts, and it has a massive amount of torque, 1100 newton meters of torque in the sport mode, and that translates to about 808 pounds-feet of torque. Absolutely phenomenal performance, especially in a straight line. Speaking of that performance, we had a chance to actually time the car with the GPS box, and we managed to go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds. That's fantastic performance from this car, despite being quite heavy. Naturally, when we talk about an electric car, the range and the charging speeds are equally important. So this car on the EPA rating, it comes out to about 300 miles, and that's actually in line with all the other iX models we've tested so far. Charging 0 to 80% in about 35 minutes, but you can also do this snack charging, as BMW calls it, and you can get 150 kilometers of range, for example, in just 10 minutes. But clearly the car, it's a lot more than just the specs and all these figures. So now it's time to get behind the wheel and test the car on some of the curvy roads around Germany. So please join me and let's hop inside. All right guys, back with the BMW iX M60, and I am joined by Peter from The Drive.
How you doing?
TheDrive.com. We're partners today driving the iX M60. We took turns driving the car, and now we're heading into Berlin. So we've had a chance to drive on the highway, on the Autobahn, and also on some of the curvy roads. And despite being a sporty car, I guess mostly the idea is to see the range and the energy consumption. So let's start with that before we dive into the driving experience. What we determined so far is that we started with about 500 kilometers of range on the dashboard, and now we're at 290, and we drove about 160 kilometers. And I think when I did the math, the efficiency came up to about 2.8 miles per kilowatt. So not the worst, not the best.
No,
right, Peter?
Could definitely be better. I mean, you know, good EVs will do like around 4, maybe more than 4. But to be fair, we were pushing it on the Autobahn. We're trying to get it up to its top speed, which we couldn't do. But still, it's like we weren't driving very hard at all.
Yeah, we were. I mean, we kind of cruised for a while, and then we did some, I mean, you did some Autobahn runs where we went up to about 226 kilometers per hour, and top speed is 250. So we weren't too far off either, but clearly we saw that the consumption, you know, the energy consumption drops quickly, or it goes up actually.
Yeah, once you start cruising on the Autobahn, you're not doing this thing any favors.
Exactly. As I saw with the BMW iX50, the EPA range, it's about 300 miles, and I managed to get about 280, 290 in normal conditions, so this one should come close to that. All right, so of course you might want to know about the driving experience, so I'm going to share my thoughts first. I'm not going to let Peter do the same, but bottom line is, if I were to compare this with the iX50, xDrive 50, I drove that car a couple of times so far, and they're quite similar in the way they drive, in the way they behave on the road. Like we said, we didn't push the car too hard, but naturally this one, it's a lot more powerful. So the 50 has about 516, 520 horsepower. This one does about 619 or 455 kilowatts. And of course, it's got a massive amount of torque, 1100 Newton meters of torque in sport mode with launch control. I guess that helps with doing some of those fun runs. And that translates to about 808 pounds-feet of torque, you know, if you're using the Imperial system. A lot more clearly than the 50 model, so you will feel that, especially on long straights. You can get up to almost the maximum speed quite quickly. You would feel also that it's been tuned by the M Division. We've learned in our briefing that the suspension, the steering, the stabilizers have all been tuned specifically for the iX M60. And one of the engineers, one of the project leaders actually told me that when they started the iX 40 and 50 projects, they started from a comfort base level. On this one, they actually went backwards. So they said, let's start from the top in sport and kind of work our way down to a balanced, comfortable mode. So this car currently has, you know, a personal mode that you can pick from a sport, but there are a couple more coming up in the future. But I think overall, I guess the idea with what they've been telling us, it's really they wanted to kind of infuse that MDNA in this car, and there are not many ways that you can do that with an electric car also.
Right.
So I guess the only thing you can adjust is really the suspension and the steering, and that's about it. I mean, you can't really adjust anything else. They did mention a few upgrades to also the brakes, and I guess we had a chance to test that as well. They're quite powerful. I guess a little bit too powerful, maybe.
They're like, the pedal feels a little weird.
Yeah, it just feels stiff a little bit.
Yeah. It's just kind of like unpredictable. It's definitely not linear. And what you were saying before, like there are hardware changes in this car, like in the drivetrain. Mm-hmm. Like what did they say? The stator or the rotor is like a little longer or something?
Yeah.
Well, like we were saying before, it's not like the difference between a 330i and a 340i. Mm-hmm. It's like there's just more voltage or something. Yeah. It's not like it's that much different. It's not like a wholly different character. Yeah.
I guess in normal driving, city driving, a little bit of some of those slow driving that we've done, you can't really tell the difference really in the in between the 50 and the 60 unless you really push it or the roads are not perfectly smooth. I guess he has the same character. And even inside, if you look at the design, you can't really tell you're in an iX M60 versus the normal iX.
That was kind of surprising to me. Usually when they do like one of these M Sport models, they got M badges all over the place. Yeah. There's the little one on the screen in the corner there, but besides that, there's not much going on here to really tell you. And
So that's interesting because if you talk to the enthusiasts on normal M cars, they feel like there are too many M badges. Right. And now when we don't have enough, we're complaining about that. So you can't really
something like this, And someone who wants to buy like an M car when it's not really an M car like this, it's like, well, I want as many M badges. And on the outside, they're not even full color. They're black and they have the kind of rose gold.
Bronze,
exactly.
Bronze, black and bronze badge.
Yeah.
Which is nice because it doesn't really, stick out too much.
No, I like it. That's the kind of thing where I'm sure that's been like in the aftermarket like forever. Like someone has made the bronze or rose gold M badge.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But like now they're finally playing with it a little bit, which is kind of cool.
And then, of course, we didn't have a chance to charge the car, but it's got the same charging performance as the normal or the regular iX model. So you can go from 0 to 80%. It's in about 35 minutes.
The way I like to think about it is if you're seriously inconveniencing yourself on a trip, like if you're going to be late to something by like 10 minutes, probably not a big deal.
Yeah.
But if it's like, half an hour or like an hour, and you can get reasonable range back in like 10, 15 minutes. So.
Yeah. And speaking of getting range back, I guess we've tried the adaptive and also the B mode. So let's start with the adaptive. So same as the other car, it is quite smooth. Actually, you don't even realize when you drive. It adapts to certain situations. Of course, it uses a variety of different sensors, also the GPS system, and it's pretty smooth how it actually does the brake regeneration in adaptive. But once you go to the B mode, which is the one paddle feel, if you lift up the drive pedal, then it's quite aggressive to regenerate that power. And I think the maximum regeneration I think they said 220 kilowatts.
Wow, and it can't even charge that fast.
Exactly.
So that's pretty impressive.
Exactly. It comes with all the amenities in the normal BMW iX. No differences there. It's a bespoke platform, and because of that, you get a lot of interior space. compared to, let's say, the i4, which is more of a, they call it a power of choice, basically one platform across all different powertrains. And you can see the shortcomings there of an electric car because it takes up some of the interior space. Whereas in this car you have a lot of interior space, actually, front and back. I had a chance in the previous iX to sit in the back, and I felt like I had just as much room as in a 7 Series, basically. And even now, I mean, we're kind of stretched out nicely, and there is still plenty of room in the back.
Yeah, armrest is a little bit narrow.
Yeah, the armrest, yeah, we're kind of fighting over this one a little bit. And, I mean, we're not extremely big either.
Nah, we're not big people, so, I mean, people bigger than us might find a little issue with that. But besides that, I mean, plenty of leg room. You can really stretch out. The tunnel doesn't go all the way to the front of the car, so there's space there too, which makes it feel extra roomy. Full glove box and everything, plenty of storage in the back. You know, we got our luggage in here, so.
Yeah, I mean, we have actually, it's worth mentioning, we have 3 suitcases in there, and it feels like there's still a lot more room to store things there. All right, so once again, when talking about the changes in between the iX M60 and the iX50, most of the upgrades are actually software based. Only the stabilizer in the M60 have been modified, but anything else, it's more of a softer tune-up, so that's why you're going to see the differences in between the two models. Clearly, that's why the modes are a little bit different. I remember the sport mode in the iX50 not being so aggressive as the one in the M60, and once again, I guess if you drive them back to back, you might notice the differences. If you don't, then probably just think that's the normal. Clearly, you can go into the more comfortable mode, the personal mode, and you can adjust that, and that's a combination of, you know, adjusting the suspension, the steering also, and that might be more suitable for a daily driver. We also agree that the M head-up display, it's quite cool.
Yeah, it's nice and big. It shows you what you want to see, you know, precise navigation instructions.
So you just have to really test them back to back, see which one speaks more to you. I guess in my case, I'll go for the 50. You don't have to spend that much money for an M60. Performance-wise, you're not likely to use all those horsepower in the US, especially with the speed limits that we have.
Even here, we can't top this thing out.
Exactly.
Can't find the space to do it. So, I mean, it is quick. You know, the launch control is impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, plenty of power. But yeah, I can't imagine having like 100 less horsepower than this, especially it being electric, the way it delivers power, and being like, this is not enough. Yeah. I'm sure the 50 is absolutely fine when it comes to the amount of power. Yeah.
Also, has been a while since I've driven a Tesla, so I can't really do a comparison back to back, but I do recall that car having better range, for example. Yet you are losing a little bit of the premium aspect that you're getting into from a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes.
Yeah, this is just nicer than that. I mean, the detail that's put into the center console area, the way everything here works and looks, and the door controls, I mean, this is much nicer than a Tesla, both in build quality and the way it looks and operates. I mean, maybe you want a bigger screen. I mean, you know, that's kind of in vogue right now.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And the Model Y has a very big, very nice, very usable screen. Mm-hmm. And it's certainly more well integrated with the climate than this is. But at the same time, you know, this is just kind of a nicer place to be overall, driving it every day. But the sound system is great.
Yeah, the sound system, we tested that. So 32 or 36 Bowers and Wilkins speakers. They have this 4D sound, which I had to Google it recently. It's really the idea of having a subwoofer integrated into the seat, and that's what gives it a 4D sound, because you are getting some vibrations from that and makes it for a 4D experience. But it sounds great. You've played a, you know, interesting playlist with very different music, so we had a chance to really see what it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, so just got back from my ride with the BMW iX M60. You've seen our in-car review, and now it's time to kind of wrap up and give you my final thoughts. So, what's the purpose of the BMW iX M60? In a nutshell, it's a car that maybe you don't necessarily need, but you want. And the reason why I'm saying that is because the performance of this car, it's extremely impressive. So as I said, you know, 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds. And you can feel that as you drive around here. Had a chance to go on the Autobahn, you've seen that also in some of those curvy roads. And performance-wise, the car absolutely delivers. Of course, it also comes down to what's the price on this one versus the 50i for the final purchasing decision, but that's absolutely up to you. If it was my car, I would absolutely go for the iX M60 since it's such a performance car. And of course, it's tuned by the M division. Might not be as tuned as much as the regular combustion engine cars, which get a lot more updates and upgrades from the M engineers. But even in this case, you can feel the suspension being a lot stiffer. The steering, it's a lot more responsive. So in a way, it's got a little bit of the M character. Naturally, we won't see a fully M electric car for quite some time, but this is a good first step. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, stay tuned on our channel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and let me know in the comments below if you would buy the top of the line iX M60 or you would prefer maybe the 40 or the 50 model. As always, thanks for watching and I will see you soon.